Our next guest, Kelly Jackson, along with McGraw-Millhaven here on the Big 550 KHRS, has seen more Viagra ads in the last 2 weeks than anybody else in the country. Of course, I'm talking about St. Louis's own Keith Costas, who is now a producer for MLB TV. Good morning, Keith Costas.
I love these no-context little intros where I only catch 5 seconds and I come in right at Viagra and I have to just hope that that's not as bad as it got.
I was just commenting that since you've been watching so much baseball, you've seen more Viagra commercials than anybody else in America.
I guess that's true. I don't know where we're going with this, but yeah, I guess that's true.
Just go with it.
So they sent you to following the Toronto series. Let's start there. That was some wild game last night.
Yeah, that was a crazy, crazy game. I was just talking to one of your producers about it. That little rally the Blue Jays put together really saved MLB from a mess with that crazy call with Shin-Soo Choo and the catcher's throw going off his bat. But that was a wild, wild game on a number of levels, not the least of which was the crowd in Toronto.
Yeah, they were throwing stuff. Did I see some kid get a beer poured on them?
I'm not sure if the kid got a beer poured on him. I think there was probably some creative producing when the crowd was going a little bit nuts. They seemed to be showing a lot of kids. Whether or not any of those kids were actually hit with anything is another story, but certainly the viewers were overcome with fear that those children's lives were in danger. Not sure if it was quite that grave of a situation, but yeah, it wasn't pretty in Toronto.
Yeah. All right. The Royals win. Let's talk about the Cardinals for a second. I mean, the conventional wisdom is that they just ran out of gas.
Yeah, I mean, I think the injuries just caught up with them, and like we've been saying all year, the Cubs were a really, really good team. There were 3 teams in the division, as everybody knows, that had a legitimate claim for the best team in the National League, if not all of baseball. But I think the injuries just caught up with them. You know, when you've got Matt Holliday banged up and playing less than 100% in the middle of your lineup, Yachty's compromised and then goes down with an even further injury late in the series. Wainwright trying to be a hero out of the bullpen. It was just too much to overcome in the end, and the Cubs were just too hot.
And of all of the injuries that they suffered, probably the Carlos Martinez injury at the end of the year was the one that just was the death knell for them.
I totally agree. I mean, I know that his second half wasn't quite as steady as the first half. Maybe he had a couple clunkers in there. But to me, Martinez was a guy that you could expect with some level of confidence to perform at an elite level. For the rest of these guys are more built for the postseason, or for the regular season rather, for the long haul. Guys like Lackey and certainly a guy like Lynn. What you're looking at with them is more of what they're going to do over 162 as opposed to dominating any one given start. They're certainly capable of it, but they're not Arrieta types where they're going to go out and be an elite pitcher. But Martinez can be that guy, and it really, really hurt losing him, not just for what it would have been with him on the mound, but just the way the whole pitching staff shook out. That had to move, that bumps people into different slots, that shortened up the bullpen. Yeah, that was a crippling injury.
Yeah, no. All right, let's talk about what I'm sure you and your colleagues at MLB TV have been talking about for days. And just one simple question for you, Mr. Keith Costas. Explain to me, because I'm certainly not very smart, how Major League Baseball can call a man safe who never touches second base. Of course, I'm talking about Chase Utley.
That was a very, very odd situation. I think the strangest thing about that whole thing was that, sure, they called him out on the field. He's running off the field. Apparently, if anybody would have tagged him after the play was over, he still would have been out. As if anybody thinks that's something they need to do. Oh, they called him out. He's running. He's halfway to the dugout. Let's just run up and tag him anyways. That would have set off a brawl if someone did that, as if that's something that the fielder's just supposed to know to do. That was a very messy situation. And the fact that they couldn't get the appeal heard with Chase Utley is just a whole other catastrophe, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of Mets fans around here. So, yeah, that whole situation was odd at best. I think it was probably a pretty dirty play. I think it's something that will probably be addressed in the offseason as well.
But Joe Torre, after the game, you're referencing him when he said, sort of like asking the question but answering it at the same time, saying, well, if you would have tagged him as he was going by the dugout, he would have been out. Well, time was already called, and the medical staff was already helping out Tejada with his broken leg. If you were trying to tag him, now follow this, Keith, because you're smart, and you can then pass this on to the higher-ups there at MLB, and you can use this, and you don't have to credit me, okay?
Oh, wonderful.
Follow this. if Joe Torre's correct that you could have tagged him as he was going by the dugout, then that means Chase Utley could have then ran back to second base. So in a sense, you could have had a rundown between second base and the dugout with Chase Utley. I
like this. It's like a T-ball situation. Like there's a rundown going on that could, theoretically veer into the outfield, into the dugout, right, running all over the field.
Yes.
Complete chaos. Maybe not exactly the clearest rule in the rule book. Yes, I agree, and I'll be passing that along to Joe Torre immediately.
Thank you. At least now I feel a little bit better about all that. Who's going to win tonight?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, I think these two guys have been, two of the 6 or 7 best pitchers in the National League, that being Zach Greinke and Jacob deGrom. Something I like about deGrom, but I mean, it's hard to go against Greinke. It's really an ideal situation if you're a neutral fan, just looking from the outside looking in. You can't really ask for a better matchup in a Game 5 than Greinke and deGrom. And MLB's been fortunate to have a couple situations like that. I mean, say what you will about the wild card, but you get Dallas Keuchel and Jake Arrieta on the mound in those games. 2 guys who could easily win the Cy Young. You've got an elimination game tonight with deGrom and Greinke. It's going to be a great matchup, and as every year, it's just reinforced with this postseason that you really just can't predict what's going to happen with baseball. So far be it from me for making a prediction, but I do think it's going to be a very, very good game.
Especially when Major League Baseball is making the Mets win 4 games in a 5-game series.
It sounds like maybe someone who had some affinity for the Mets at one time on the East Coast. I'm not sure. Just reading between the lines here.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's seen more Viagra ads than anybody else in America the last week and a half. Mr. Keith Costas, thanks for checking in. We'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, girl.
All right, 7:11 here, Big 550.
I always love he's like, I don't know what you're going to throw at me.
I don't know what you're talking about, McGraw, but all right, I'm here for you. Menino